Martin, thank you for that generous introduction, and I want to say he's very modest because he played such a foundational role in creating this institute. It was your vision and your entrepreneurialism that made it possible, and I'm very happy to say that I think just about every director, with one exception, is here, because we've got Kurt Organista, David Montejano, you're here, Lisa is here, I'm here, so we make sure the roof stays intact here, because this is a lot of the Latino leadership on campus. So, in addition to thanking Martin, I also want to thank Lisa Garcia Beroya, Christina Lash, and the staff here at the Center for Latino Policy Research for all that they've done to make this event a success. And I also want to thank the co-sponsors, the Institute for the Study of Societal Issues, Martin, also the Center for the Study of Law and Society, Roseanne Greenspan is here, the Henderson Center for Social Justice, Mary-Louise Frampton is here, and the Chief Justice Earl Warren Institute on Race, Ethnicity, and Diversity for supporting this event. And finally, I want to thank all of you in the audience. I know that your time is precious and that you're very busy, and I'm grateful that you've come today to talk about what I think is one of the great important issues of our time, and that is the educational attainment of Latino students. And this kicks off a series that will address those issues, and so hopefully this will just be the beginning of a number of conversations on these issues. Now, when I was asked to speak, I thought, well, it's wonderful to be returning to Berkeley and to have a chance to brainstorm with you, but I also wanted, because of this recent event in my life, to weave throughout my account of the statistical picture of Latinos in schooling and the structural challenges that they face in the educational process, to weave into that my own experience, which often resonates with those statistics and those studies that I'm going to talk about. So let me begin with the elementary school years and the secondary school years. When I was an elementary school student, I was walking down the hall one day when I overheard a teacher say, "Such a bright girl, too bad there's no future for her." Even then, I knew that her prognosis was all wrapped up in perceptions of my Mexican ancestry and identity, a status that would leave me on the outside looking in, whatever my abilities or efforts might be. But what I don't think that teacher appreciated when she made that remark was how devastating it felt to be written off before I had reached 8 years of age. But the truth is, America was a greater country than she had imagined. At night, I would go home to watch scenes from around the nation on what was then a new, remarkable invention called television. And I saw the images of people chanting, being pulled apart, and coming back together, facing down force by meeting violence with nonviolence, and in the process, demanding that America live up to its promise as a democracy rooted in principles of equality and liberty. As a child, I did not realize, well, this is the next generation speaking out already. Great. And so, as a child, I did not realize that those brave individuals would change my life by redefining the structures of opportunity through social activism and legal struggle. These efforts would remake the parameters of my future, making it possible for me to stand here today as Dean-Designate of UCLA School of Law. The process of social change takes time. And in the meanwhile, there were other people who reached out to me, nurtured me, and helped me to love learning for its own sake. They prepared me for the future that might lie ahead. So at the same time that this teacher was bemoaning my fate, I had another teacher, Mrs. Lola Clevenger, who basically convinced me that I had potential. She instilled in me an excitement about ideas, and she made me feel that I fully belonged in her second grade class. At a time when I wondered about my place at school, she reached out and showed me how I could transcend the pettiness of that moment by transporting myself with books and projects. I don't think we ever forget the people who mentor us when we need it the most. I certainly haven't. And when I won a Distinguished Teaching Award here at Berkeley, when they asked me about my role models, Mrs. Clevenger was the one who came to mind, because she had shown me that for each and every one of us, learning is a search for meaning and a validation of who we are and why we are here. When I was asked about my own teaching style, I knew that any success that I had enjoyed stemmed from that early experience of connection and possibility. It wasn't just the information that was transmitted, it was the relationship that was formed. And so I wrote that though there are times when I am tired and when I fail, at my best moments of teaching, I reach out to the sad, lonely child in each of us, still searching for Mrs. Clevenger. Now, much has changed since the days of the civil rights battles of the 1960s that came into my home on television. But there is no doubt that having motivated teachers and mentors at an early age still matters deeply. Latino students today often live in segregated neighborhoods in households that are marked by poverty. These may be loving homes, but parents often have low levels of educational attainment that prevent them from sharing information about the pathways to school success and higher education. In some cases, language can be an additional barrier to participation, and immigration status can leave parents feeling vulnerable and ill-equipped to speak out on behalf of their children. At times, families may plant the seeds of aspiration, but not know exactly how to cultivate these seeds so that they grow into academic attainment. In their book, Dream in Color, Linda and Loretta Sanchez, who are now both representatives to the United States Congress, and I think this is unprecedented to have two sisters in the House of Representatives, recall how their parents nurtured their hopes for the future. Loretta remembers that one of her father's favorite sayings was, "Don't let anybody ever tell you you're a dumb Mexican." She now realizes that as an immigrant to the United States with limited education and Spanish as his first language, her father must have heard that over and over. When Loretta received a school assignment that stumped her, despite their limited schooling experience, both of her parents stepped in to help her think about solutions, and her project was a tremendous success. In that moment, she learned an important lesson. She writes, "If you defeat yourself, nothing will get done. But if you remain calm, look at every possibility, and work with other people, you're sure to come up with a solution." Even so, when the time came to make decisions about college, Loretta's parents could not offer her concrete advice since neither of them had attended college themselves, and so she was left to rely on a guidance counselor who was not particularly committed to being sure that Loretta made the most of her opportunities. Today, Latinos' educational success continues to depend on early intervention, high-quality teachers, and systems of mentoring and support. According to a study of a universal preschool program in Oklahoma, Latinos benefited more than any other group from access to this early enrichment experience. But for these effects to endure, these students must wind up in elementary and secondary programs that also are strong. Yet Latinos now are the group most likely to attend schools that are hyper-segregated by race, ethnicity, and poverty, and they tend to be taught by teachers with less impressive credentials in schools with fewer resources than those attended by their white peers. Latino students are twice as likely to be poor as white students and more likely to grow up in the most intensely poverty-stricken families. As a result, Latino children suffer from the effects of material want, and I think here particularly of access to health care and good nutrition. Indeed, when I went to elementary school in Calexico, California, I remember that many of my Latino classmates showed up hungry. I could hear their stomachs growling until mid-morning when trays with cartons of milk arrived. They were part of a federal nutritional program, and I guess our own childhood version of a coffee break. Now, after we had our milk, the classroom felt different when the hunger pangs had stopped, and I suspect that the learning process felt different too. The Latino population is the fastest growing in the United States, but it continues to lag behind in educational attainment. Between 1987 and 2007, the number of Latino students in public schools doubled from 11% to 21%, and the Census Bureau predicts that by 2021, 1 in every 4 pupils in the United States will be Latino. The future is already here in states like California and Texas, where approximately half of the public school students are Latino. Now, with this growth, unfortunately, has not come progress in educational attainment. So in 2005, only 58% of Latinos graduated from high school on time, compared to 78% of whites. And this disparity correlated with an ongoing achievement gap as measured by standardized tests in reading and mathematics. So, according to the National Assessment of Educational Progress, 86% of Latino 8th graders scored below grade level in reading, as compared to 62% of white 8th graders in 2007. I should add, those statistics are alarming because of the high levels of below grade performance for all students, but the picture is particularly stark for Latinos. Now, these numbers reveal that a growing segment of the population, and in California the single largest racial or ethnic group, is not developing the human capital that will be necessary to fuel an economy predicated on technology and complex services. Faced with these facts, the state, sadly, has disinvested in the education of Latinos, and honestly, I think all public school children, in kindergarten through 12th grade. And with this disinvestment, we can hardly count on the opportunities for preschool that we know are so important. Now, these developments certainly hurt all students, but they hurt the most in less affluent districts that have fewer options to fill the gap. So the first problem, I think, that is a major problem has been the loss of our commitment to education as a pathway to opportunity in the state of California. But that is not the only obstacle, because today Latinos are, by some measures, the most segregated population in America. And this is occurring at a time when federal courts have retreated from desegregation decrees, and worse yet, a recent United States Supreme Court decision has made it difficult for local communities to adopt even voluntary integration plans should they have the political will to do so. A third major obstacle is that the state has adopted policies that hamper the school's flexibility to deal with the needs of Latino students. So not only are teachers and administrators struggling with fewer resources, they have less discretion in determining how to use them. An example of this is Proposition 227, which mandates a single approach to addressing the needs of English language learners, which is, by the way, a substantial segment of the Latino student body, which in turn limits a teacher's ability to tailor programs to particular children's individual needs. Finally, there are fewer avenues for parents to participate in educational decision-making about their children. We do not anymore see the kinds of aggressive support for parental involvement in federal legislation that we once did. And the federal courts have narrowed the ability of parents and children to bring private lawsuits to enforce their entitlements in education. Now, I acknowledge that all of these obstacles, both separately and cumulatively, are pretty intractable in the current budgetary climate. But the truth is, whatever the problems in Sacramento and Washington, D.C., I believe there are things you can do right now as individuals to make a difference. And those things matter to the particular people whom you help. So the first thing that I think we need to do is publicize these issues through the outlets that are available to us. And I congratulate the Center for its sponsorship of this series, which is a step in that direction. But I do believe we need to reach beyond the academy to the general public. And there are many ways to do that. You can write op-eds, you can do blogs, you can use all kinds of outlets to get out the word about these issues. Now, another thing that each of us can do is to mentor someone who needs your help. All of you here at Berkeley are, by definition, highly successful academically, or you are sophisticated. You have access to resources that many others may not. And while mentoring is important in elementary and secondary school, and I'm very proud to say that we have a Latino student organization at UCLA Law School that every year sponsors an